Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video in the studio. And today we're talking about the Corsair Harpoon RGB. And this is a gaming mouse that's priced at $29.99 in US dollars. I don't have the exact UK amount at the time of filming, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't a straight £30 to $30 translation, but if not, it'll be very similar. And this mouse features an RGB zone on the front of it. It features a Pixart 3320 sensor with a DPI of 6000, or at least a maximum DPI of 6000. And all of these things should add up to a mouse that represents fairly good value for money for gamers that want something that looks good and ultimately performs well as well. The design of the mouse is probably what you would describe as classic. There's not really any features here that are out of the ordinary, and there aren't any buttons that will make you wonder why it's there. You'll find a total of 6 buttons, and these are all configurable and customizable in the software, but otherwise they do what you would traditionally want them to do. The front of the mouse features the Corsair logo with RGB lighting. There is only one RGB zone on the entire mouse though, so this is something that if you pay more and you get a more expensive Corsair mouse, you are going to get more zones of lighting. Personally, I don't really think this bothers me at all, but if you are really into RGB lighting, then it might. Moving up toward the top part of the mouse, you'll find that we have the DPI switch button, and this is one of the areas that, again, is a little bit lacking compared to the more expensive competition, whereby you've only got one button that cycles through DPIs rather than having two, so you could have one for setting the DPI lower and one for setting the DPI up. Sadly, it is just one button here. The scroll wheel actually works really nicely though. It feels really nice in the hand, and I never found that it was squeaky, and it was very responsive to use. The left side of the mouse features a firm rubber grip, and then you've got backwards and forwards buttons here. But again, you can assign them in the Corsair software if you want them to do something differently. And as I'm so used to having a sniper button, I was actually selecting the forward button to be my sniper button and lowering the DPI to something a lot lower for precision control. The right hand side of the mouse features more rubber grips, and overall the mouse is very light. It's definitely one of the lightest mice I have used in recent memory. It weighs in at around about 85 grams, which means it is very lightweight, it is very nimble, and it is very easy to do flick shots if that is your sort of thing. I traditionally lean towards a maybe medium to heavier mouse, so I'm used to using the Corsair M65 as my daily driver, but I could quite easily get used to using this mouse if I needed to. It is also worth noting that the cable on this mouse is not braided, and is sadly another feature that is lacking on a budget mouse, but of course it is just that, it is a budget mouse. Now the last aspect of the design that we should talk about is the build quality. Now the left and right clicks of the mouse perform really nicely. I'll get onto this more in the gaming performance section of this review, but they use on-run switches that are rated for millions and millions of clicks, so you're unlikely to wear them out. And the overall responsiveness, I have to say, is really nice with the mouse. The clicks definitely feel like there's a fair amount of travel, and to say it in the most simply and probably annoying way, they do feel very clicky, which is a great thing for a mouse to do. On the negative side though, the mouse definitely feels like it costs $30. It's not to say it's bad. I mean, the rubberized grips mean that it does fit nicely in your hand and it is very maneuverable, but it definitely does feel like a cheaper mouse. There's no two ways about it. And if you're someone that likes the feeling of a more premium mouse but you like the design, maybe looking at something like the QPad DX20 is the way you want to go for something that feels a little bit more expensive but does actually have a very similar design. Overall though, not too bad for its price point, and the RGB lighting on the front of the mouse has been executed pretty flawlessly really. Everything is really nice and bright, there's a wide array of colours. There is a bug at the moment whereby I couldn't actually get the settings to take hold unless I formed part of a lighting link, but this is pre-release software, so I'm fairly sure it will be fixed in time for release, if not very soon afterwards. And the RGB lighting is of course controlled through the Corsair Q software, which has been around for a very long time now, and it's getting better and better. It's definitely one of the best on the market. It's not necessarily the most clearly laid out things. There's an advanced section, and sometimes you'll find that lighting doesn't take hold. That's not because the software doesn't work, it's because you haven't quite realised what you need to do. But as long as you're using the simple mode, everything is actually fairly well laid out. And if you do have other Corsair peripherals, then it will actually sync up, or at least you can set it to sync up. So if you have something like the Corsair Polaris mouse mat like we do here, then we can sync the lighting and get some nice effects. If you want to change the performance settings of the mouse, this is also done in this software, and everything is nice and clear and easy to do. And you can set different levels and different modes for the DPI. I wouldn't advise using the maximum DPI of the mouse. I normally set it to around about 2200, but of course the choice is up to you. And generally speaking, there's not really much more I would want the software to do. You can do macros and things like that as well if that's your bag, but I can't say it's something I would ever use. So that's it for the design of the mouse and the RGB lighting. And as long as you do like a mouse that's a bit more nimble, lighter, and a bit smaller in your hand, then this probably is a solid shout. But likewise, if you like something that's bigger and heavier, maybe go and check out the RG Sparta, as long as you've got 130 odd quid to spend. So that's a rant maybe for a different day. Performance of this mouse though is something I can't really contest about at all. Things that I don't like, the clicks on the secondary buttons, so sort of the backwards, forwards buttons, and then the DPI switch, definitely do feel a little bit on the cheaper side, and definitely does feel like a downgrade compared to the more expensive mice I'm used to. But the raw things in the mouse that everyone is going to use, so the left and right clicks, the scroll wheel, and the actual sensor itself, not really too much I can fault there. The tracking felt really nice and responsive, and even playing Counter-Strike Go on a monitor that's less than ideal for it, which is an 4K 60Hz panel. You can find the review of in the eye over there actually. Even in that less than ideal conditions, I was still having a very enjoyable game. I was able to get some headshots, believe it or not, with the sniper rifle, which is something I'm definitely not very good at normally. But I think it's time to actually wrap this up with a conclusion. The mouse, I have to say, I really do like. The Corsair Harpoon for $30 really does represent great value for money, as you're getting a good looking mouse with very good performance, and while it does feel a little bit rough around the edges, it's a budget mouse, and I think that is to be expected. If you like the shape and you don't want to spend any more, then this definitely comes recommended, which is why it wins the top purchase award. If you want to look at something a little bit different though, you maybe want to spend a little bit more, then my personal favourite in this form factor at the moment is the QPad DX20, and you can find the full review of this in the eye in the top right hand corner. Not sure if it's available in the US yet, it wasn't actually available when I originally did the review, but that sort of goes one step further than the Harpoon. It feels a little bit more premium, and just generally speaking I think it's a nicer mouse, but it is slightly more expensive. If you play a lot of FPS, then something like the M65 is still my personal favourite, and if you want to play MMOs, there is a whole wide array of mice from the likes of Corsair, Razer, so many different mice companies that will sell you something that will tailor to your needs. But if you want to spend $30, you want something that's light, nimble, and has decent performance, then the Corsair Harpoon is definitely a solid shout. And there we go, I hope you've enjoyed this video. A massive thank you to Corsair for supplying this review sample and sponsoring the channel as always. Thanks to you guys for watching the video of course. Subscribe for more mice reviews and a whole host of other videos. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and I'll leave the Amazon links to the Corsair Harpoon in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello again, unfortunately you haven't got rid of me just yet, but if you want to, you can find some links to other videos at the right hand side of the screen. They won't necessarily get rid of me, but they definitely will point in the direction of some other relevant, hopefully good content for you to check out. And if you have enjoyed videos like this and you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button and then you won't miss a thing.